Shiva's Tandavam is an untimely one. It is an Akala Tandavam. And when there is an Akala Tandavam, it is Shiva who that Tandava is what creates the universe. Similarly, that Tandavam is what brings the universe can bring the universe to an untimely end. So when that Tandavam is happening, because that sadness is so intense, it comes out for him as dance. And at that point, none of the Devatas, they have the energy to be able to stand in front of Parameshwara and to say, this Tandavam must stop, Parameshwara, because who can contain that energy when he is in that kind of sadness? The story that I want to talk about today is the story of Sati and Shiva. This specifically because this is a story that is known to everybody or majority of us. We know it in a very, very quick fashion that yes, Shiva and Sati were married, Daksha was not happy, and then Sati gives up her body, and then Shiva does a Tandavam. These are the quick, this is a 30-second recap. But this is one of the most powerful stories to talk about how Sanatana Dharma is not saying there are endless and endless gods. Sanatana Dharma saying there is one Paramatma. That one Paramatma has 6 primordial manifestations. These are called Purna Brahma Swarupas. That means that upasana or adoration, worship of any of these 6 forms is directly that of Parabrahma, of the unmanifest Parabrahma. Those 6 forms, as several of you would already be knowing, the first form is Ganapati. The second form is Shanmatha. The third form is Ambika, or any form of Shakti or Devi. The fourth form is Vishnu. The fifth form is Shankara or Shiva. And the sixth form is Surya Narayana or Surya. So these are collectively called the Shanmathas. This Shanmatha concept is a very interesting concept because whichever Devata you look at as your Ishta Devata in this, you can look at them as, you worship them as Parabrahma, but you worship all the others also. Sanatana Dharma does not say if your Ishta Devata is Devi, that you say, I will not look at Vishnu, I will not look at Shiva. No, because Devi is really both them. One is her brother, one is her husband. So they have that beautiful connection. Sanatana Dharma is telling us to be able to expand our view and understand them for what they are. Now let's look at, before we go into Shiva, Shakti and Vishnu, let's look at this idea of Shanmathas itself. From here, if you look, 4 come from one family, Shiva, Shakti, Ganapati, Kartikeya. So we'll keep the other 2. We'll keep these 2 children for later. And if I forget at any point, please tell me that we need to make a special reference to these 2 children because they will come a little later. So out of 4, we have taken away 2 now. That is because they are the children. Surya is an entirely different ball game because Surya represents the light of Paramatma, literally, metaphorically. So we will keep aside Surya in this discussion. Who is left? We have Shiva, Shakti and Vishnu that are left. So let's look at the specific story of Sati, Shiva and Vishnu and look at where are the points where 3 of them come together and why have we called them a trio of gems? You yourself will be able to answer that at the end of the session. So we'll look at this beautiful moment when in the story, Daksha is already infuriated with Shiva. He doesn't want to. So Daksha's problem is that he does not see Shiva as Paramatma. He is familiar with the idea that Vishnu is his supreme lord. He will worship Vishnu. He goes ahead with that. When, of course, much against his wishes, he has to give Sati's hand to marriage in Shiva. We won't be going through the entire story. We're going through certain Kilaka Amshas. Kilakas are like hook kind of focus areas that we need to understand. So Daksha decides that he is going to have a yajna in which he is going to humiliate Shiva. So he decides that for this to go on, any yajna needs a rakshaka, it needs a protector, because only yajna is a massive effort. It is not just setting up a fire and putting in some ablutions. There is so much of a process required around yajna that it needs to be safeguarded and protected. So when this yajna needs to be protected, Yajna Rakshaka is Vishnu eternally. Ramanamam Yajna Rakshanam Lakshanam. Annamacharya has said that the Lord's purpose is his eternal purpose. Vishnu's purpose is Yajna Rakshana. So Yajnam vai Vishnu. So therefore Daksha goes immediately to Vishnu and he says, look, I am going to have a yajnam. So your job is to come and to protect my yajnam. So immediately Vishnu says, but you are having a yajnam and you're not inviting Shiva to this yajnam. He said, that is different, but you are Yajna Rakshaka, so you must come and you must protect my yajnam. So Shri Vishnu gives him a very interesting answer. Vishnu does not say, no, I will not protect your yajna. What Vishnu says is, up till what extent you have invoked me, till that extent I will protect your yajna. This is the terms and conditions apply that Vishnu gives him. Daksha doesn't understand, doesn't spend any time trying to decode this. He says, okay, as you wish. And he goes on. Then the yajna happens. Now in the yajna, we know what happens. Sati arrives. And when Sati arrives, she comes, and immediately at that point, she sees that her father doesn't want her to be at the yajna. So she's infuriated, and she realizes that I don't want to be associated, I don't want to be known as the daughter of a man who is such a Shivadrohi, who has so much of Shivadvesham, who has so much of hatred for Shiva. So I will come back to a worthy father, and I will not be daughter to you anymore, is what Sati decides. And through Yoga Agni, she gives up her body. That is why, interestingly, for those of you who are familiar with this subject, whenever you look at the word Dakshayini, whenever the word Dakshayini comes in any stotram, whether it is Lalita Sahasranama, whether it is an Ashtakam somewhere else, it is always either preceded or it is followed by another word. Daksha Yajna Vinashini is the next word. Because as much as she is Daksha's daughter, she is the one who brought the destruction of that Yajna. So, and that is because that the entire Yajna was adharmic at its very core. So what happens? She gives up her body. And at that point, news immediately reaches some of the Shivaganas who had come with her. They go back to Kailasha and they inform Parameshwara that this has happened. So Parameshwara sends Veerabhadra and Bhadrakali, and they begin the destruction of the Yajna. Now Daksha realizes what's happening, that Shiva has sent Ganas, and these Ganas are absolutely wreaking havoc. At that point, Vishnu is involved in this because he has promised that he will do Yajna Rakshaka. So Vishnu is fighting, and Daksha is noticing that despite Vishnu fighting, nothing is getting done. Although Vishnu is fighting, suddenly coming to a halt. It was going on up till this point, but Daksha notices that sometimes he's just allowing some troops of Shivaganas to enter into the Yajna Vedika. So Daksha is very infuriated, saying, Vishnu is supposed to be on our side. He has accepted this role of protecting the Yajna. What is he doing? So at that point, he goes to Narayana and he says, you promised that you will protect my Yajna. Now you literally let Veerabhadra inside. What is this? So Vishnu smiles and he says, what did I tell you? I told you that up till which extent you invoke me, up till that point, I will protect your yajna. What does that mean? What that means is simple. You invoked me as Vishnu, but I am half Vishnu. My other half is Shiva. So the part that you invoked, that 50%, I have already protected the yajna. The other part is the part of me that you offended, the part of me whose wrath you are dealing with. That part I cannot save you from the wrath of. That is your karma to deal with. And Vishnu stops that job of Yajna Rakshaka there. But Vishnu is still true to his word. So he continues, but it doesn't go on with the same fervor. There itself, the first hint comes about Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya Shiva Rupaya Vishnave. Shivasya Hridayam Vishnuhu Vishnoscha Hridayam Shivaha. Shiva and Vishnu are eternally in each other's hearts. If you see the Vishnu Ashtotram, you will Harapriyaya Namaha. One of his names is my namaskarams to he who is most fond of Hari and who most fond of Hara, and who Hara is most fond of, Hara being Shiva. If you read the Shiva Ashtotram, one of his names is Vishnu Vallabha. Vishnu Vallabhaya Namaha. My salutations to he who is most dear to Vishnu. So that equation that they share is very strong. But here what comes as a hint gets expanded a little bit. So we have three characters. No, so now Shiva and Vishnu are suggesting that they are connected to each other. Vishnu has said so himself. But there is the third character, Shakti or Sati. Where is the reference coming to her? The reference to Sati comes just a little bit later, when Veerabhadra and Mahavishnu are locked in a very serious combat. And Veerabhadra is Shiva Swarupam himself. So it is the same energies that are meeting. It is Shiva and Vishnu, they are equal energies. And when those energies meet, at this point, what happens is Vishnu releases his chakram on Veerabhadra. Because Yajna Rakshakam is something he committed to, so he will not go back on it. So when he releases his chakram on Veerabhadra swallows that chakram. And when that happens, now the chakram is no longer there. Veerabhadra picks up his Trishulam and he is ready to strike. Veerabhadra is about to strike and he hears a voice that stops him and his hands freeze midair. The voice is an Asharira Vak. It's not from the Yajna Vedika. That voice speaks very clearly and says, don't raise your Trishulam on the person in front of you, because the person in front of you is no different from your own Swami Shakti. That is exactly what he hears. That stuns Veerabhadra, because then he wonders, what is this? What is happening? Who is in front of me? Narayana is in front of me. What am I hearing? I am hearing that this Narayana is no different from My Swami's wife. My Swami's wife is who? Sati. So Veerbhadra is as confused as most of us here are. This fellow said Shiva somewhere, suddenly now he's saying Vishnu, now he's saying Shakti. What is happening? Logic is very simple. Now let's pay attention to what the Ashariri Vak continued and says. Kopecha Kalika Rupe, that Shakti, your Parameshwara Shakti, has 4 forms. Kopecha Kalika Rupe, when she is angry, she takes the form of Kalika. That Kopam we will understand later and what her anger is. It's not to be mistook or misunderstood to be human anger. Kopecha Kalika Rupe, Saumyecha Bhavani Rupa. When she is Saumyam, when she is pleased, when she is at ease, she is eternally at ease, but when she is in that state of Shantam, of Saumyam, she is called Bhavani. The third Swarupam is Sangrame Durga Rupa. When she is in the state when she needs to fight, her name is Durga. She takes the form of Durga. And the fourth one is Pumrupa Vishnu Vigraha. When she, when Shakti decides to become a male, when Shakti takes on a masculine form, that swarm Pumrupa Vishnu Vigraha, she becomes Vishnu. So who is the one who is standing in front of you? It looks like Vishnu, but it is your Shakti who has taken a male form. So Veerbhadra steps back and does a namaskaram saying, this is my Parameshwara Shakti, so therefore my Swamini only, and he does a namaskaram and he steps back. But here is where we have to start understanding. This is not a katha of great action alone that we need to just read it and just say we are done with this. This is something that is suggesting in what context we need to be able to understand Shiva, Shakti and Vishnu. What do we mean by this? How do we understand this? That is the beauty of Puranic lore, that it takes a very complex context, a very complex ideology, and it puts it into a story in a way that we will never be able to forget. The answer to this as to what is this happening, place Vishnu, it's saying no, this is Sati in a male form. What's happening here? We'll go a little further into the story and the answer will become very clear. We will look at that particular place. We will pause there to really do the deep dive. So what happens a little bit later is that the yajnam for the most part is destroyed, and at that point Shiva comes. And when Shiva comes, he looks at everything that is there and he looks at Sati's deham and he picks up that deha of Sati, and the sadness just takes over him. Because now it is important to understand also the idea of sadness, in that Shiva is not somebody, Shiva is beyond attachment, but that is his own Shakti that has left her body there. She has gone inside him back, but as long as she was in a form, he was able to see and experience and interact with her. Now it's gone completely inside. So that thought saddens him, and it saddens him to the extent that he begins that Tandava. And when he begins that Tandava, Shiva's Tandavam is an untimely one. It is an Akala Tandavam. And when there is an Akala Tandavam, it is Shiva who, that Tandava is what creates the universe. Similarly, that Tandavam is what brings the universe can bring the universe to an untimely end. So when that Tandavam is happening, because that sadness is so intense, it comes out for him as dance. And at that point, none of the Devatas, they have the energy to be able to stand in front of Parameshwara and to say, this Tandavam must stop, Parameshwara, because who can contain that energy when he is in that kind of sadness? When somebody is ordinarily in grief itself, it is difficult to stand in front of them and say anything. This is the Lord of the universe, Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Nayaka is standing there. Who will be able to stand in front of him and say, stop it, bring your grief down? They're all wondering what to do. And as the intensity is growing for him, because he's seeing the body, he's holding the body and dancing. So at that point, Narada goes to Vishnu and he says, only you can stop this. Somehow get this Tandava to stop. So Vishnu arrives on the scene. So there is Shiva holding the body of Sati. Vishnu sees him from behind. Vishnu is not looking at him. Nobody can even make eye contact with Parameshwara. At that point, Mahavishnu is standing at the back and he realizes that the biggest trigger right now for Parameshwara is the body of Sati, the Chaya Deham of Sati. That the more he's seeing the body, the more aggravated he is getting. The only way to be able to control his anger, to be able to control that Tandavam and to bring it down, because it is untimely and it can destroy, is if that body is removed. So if that body is taken away from his sight, then it will happen. But it's not so simple. No, it's not that you can go and request him for the body of Sati. He's not going to part it. Naturally, that's all he has left of her physically. So Vishnu realizes and he pays attention to what's happening. What is happening? Shiva is doing a Tandavam. Tandavam means he's putting his foot down. So when he puts his foot down, there is a beat. And Shiva eternally has his own anklets and all of that as well. So when he's putting his foot down, there is a sound. So Vishnu notices, what I need to do is, every time that his foot steps down, at that same time, I need to release the chakram. when I release the chakram like this, what I'm going to do is part by part of her body will get cut. He will not realize this immediately. He will notice it only later. It's okay. We'll deal with that when it happens. So at that point, Shiva's beats match for every beat. And Shiva doesn't hear the chakram. He doesn't hear the sound of the chakram because of his own, all the sounds that come when he hits the floor with his foot. So part by part, the body is cut. And suddenly Shiva puts his foot down and realizes, where is she? Where is the Chaya Sati? Up till now, at least that was there. Then he becomes angry, saying, till now, the only thing that I had left, the only memory I had left of my beloved was this Chaya Rupam. Now even that has gone from me. Who dare do this? Who is the one who took away my Chaya Sati from me? At that point, even before anyone can say anything, Parameshwara makes a statement saying, whoever has separated me from my beloved, they will know the pain of separation from their beloved. This is what he says. At that point, Narada comes straight in front of him and he cools him down. He attempts to cool him down. Parameshwara asks him, who has done this? Narada says, Swami, this is Mahavishnu has done this. Narayana has done this. Shiva immediately pulls back, saying, what did I do? I cursed Narayana. Narayana, who is in my hridayam, I cursed him. What did I do? So Shiva is torn. Now there is the sadness of Sati gone, the body of Sati gone, and there is the sadness that he has cursed Narayana. At that point, Narayana comes in front of him and he bows down and he says, Parameshwara, first of all, don't be sad about you having cursed me. What you have said as a curse, that will come very useful for me. We will see how. Second thing, I needed to do this for Lokakshema, for the welfare of the world, Parameshwara. So what I did was only with that intention. It was not to bring you more grief. So we will see the first part, that is, how did Vishnu say Shiva's curse will come in useful? We'll go there in just a minute, but I want us to understand this particular scene very importantly. Okay, this is where we have to move into Tattvam. So up till now is the story.